Week one of college football is now in the books, and today I'm going to be breaking down my list of draft-eligible quarterbacks, studs and duds from the season opening week of college football. Before we get into the show today, guys, on Friday's video, we put up 264 likes on our college football week one preview video when it came to these quarterbacks. If we can get more than those 264 likes on today's show, we will have another preview for you guys for week two of the college football season when it comes to the top draft-eligible quarterbacks this year. So if you guys want more of this quarterback content here on the channel, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. And with that, I want to let you guys know before we start here, this is just week one. All right, this is just the beginning, and there's still a lot of football to be played. So even if a quarterback is on my duds list here this week, that doesn't mean that they're a bad player or that that's the final verdict on them. There's still a lot of football left to be played, guys, and obviously there's still quite a bit of film left to be put out on these gentlemen, but certainly some initial impressions were laid out on the field here in the season opener. So first up here, let's start with the studs, the guys that impressed me the most in college football this weekend. And we'll start with the player that played yesterday in the game versus Bill Belichick's UNC Tar Heels, TCU's Josh Hoover. Now, Hoover, not the biggest guy in the world. I wouldn't necessarily say the strongest arm in the world. It's certainly a good enough arm, but Hoover is one of the more underrated college quarterbacks in the country heading into the year because of his ability to pick apart a defense with his brain, both pre and post snap, his ability to identify defensive coverage and then attack it, get his eyes to the first read. It's super impressive, and yesterday versus a pro-style Belichick defense, even though the Tar Heels there in UNC have a long way to go, Hoover was still able to complete 75% of his passes, over 280 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns, including a beautiful fade ball in the end zone, leading his receiver. The thing that really jumps out when it comes to Hoover, in my opinion, guys, is his feel for the game. I think that his ability to mentally diagnose a defense is really impressive. He's got super clean, super quick throwing mechanics. He's also pretty good out of structure. He reminds me a little bit of Brock Purdy, his ability to throw those layered passes over the middle of the field and especially to the intermediate middle of the field. And he still has a little bit of that out of structure playmaking juice to make TCU's play caller right even when he's wrong. So I'm really impressed with Josh Hoover. I was really impressed with him last year. I think Nick Saban said it yesterday on the pregame show on ESPN. This guy might be the most underrated college quarterback in the country heading into the year, and I think he showed that off in front of a national audience last night. Then we get to John Mateer from Oklahoma, and this guy reminds me a little bit of like a mini Justin Herbert, the way that he throws kind of that sidearm sling style of passing, but he's also pretty darn good as a rusher as well. Now, he's not nearly as big as Justin Herbert, all right? He's only 6'1", 220 pounds, but he's got plenty of strength to his profile. He's a fantastic rusher of the football. He was absolutely picking apart I believe it was the Illinois State defense on Saturday. Now, obviously, that's not a great opponent to go up against, but John Mateer is going to be somebody that a lot of eyes are going to be on this next week as they go up against the Michigan Wolverines. But Mateer looks like a mini Justin Herbert to me, guys. He looks like somebody that can sling that thing. He throws with really good anticipation and phenomenal arm talent. That was something that I noticed on his film last year at Washington State. The Wazoo team last year, frankly, was not very good outside of Mateer and, of course, Kyle Williams. The defense was terrible. The run game was non-existent. The other receivers were not great. But now that he's at Oklahoma, where he's got a much better supporting cast, he's got an opportunity to really cement himself as a round one quarterback. There's even some people starting to mock John Mateer to the Pittsburgh Steelers in late round one of next year's mock draft. So this is definitely a name Steelers fans need to be keeping their eye on. In my opinion, he's got a ton of arm talent. He can run the football really well, which is important to head coach Mike Tomlin if he's still here as this team's head coach next year. So definitely keep your eye on Mateer as he goes up against a tough Michigan defense next week. Then you got Carson Beck from Miami, and this was a huge game for Carson Beck, all right, because that Notre Dame defense might be the toughest defense he plays all year, as Miami is in the ACC. There's not as many great defenses in that conference this year, and he had a really good game against that really tough Notre Dame defense with some of the best defensive players in the country in that unit. He had over 64% completion percentage, over 200 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, one of those touchdowns was an incredible one-handed catch that could have been intercepted if he didn't have the right receiver to throw to there in CJ. But Carson is somebody that really looked in control of that that Miami offense. He was, doing a lot of checks and motions, and it looked like that he had been in that offense for years. So that was kind of his calling card back in Georgia, was his ability to operate an offense efficiently, mentally diagnose a defense, and throw accurate footballs with anticipation. He showed all of that in this first football game. Of course, they come away with the victory over the Irish. So big-time victory for Carson Beck in his Hurricane debut. That's definitely a great start to getting him back on the track, potentially as a round one quarterback. Then you get to Taylon Green from Arkansas, and if you just want to go by just the sheer numbers, like who was the most impressive and most dominant against the team they played against, Taylon Green versus a really bad opponent, Alabama A&M, 77.4% completion percentage, 322 yards passing, even more than that on the ground, and 6 total touchdowns with 0 picks. So Taylon Green, super talented physically quarterback here from Arkansas, 6'6", 230 pounds, as athletic as all get out. This guy's got the potential to be a really high draft pick one day, and he really showed out in week one. Now, obviously, as playing in the SEC, he's going to be playing against much tougher opponents as the season goes on, but against Alabama A&M, he certainly put on a show to start his 2025 campaign. And, he's got a super fun athletic profile. That's for damn sure. He's got a big arm. He can run around. Now, I do think some of the mental processing stuff might have looked a little bit slow on the film from him this week one, but you can't deny the numbers, man. He was extremely impressive. So now moving on with our list here, Jalen Daniels from Kansas has just been absolutely lights out the first 2 weeks of college football. He played back in week 0, but his stat line through 2 weeks is just absolutely insane. He's completing 80% of his passes, over 520 total yards in 2 games. He's been taken out in the third quarter in each of his first 2 games. That's how dominant he's been, because 7 touchdowns is just 1 turnover. Jalen Daniels has been super impressive to start the season. Hasn't played, any legitimate opponents. That's going to be coming up here in the weeks to come. But Daniels certainly getting his 2025 season off on the right start. He's got a lot of athleticism, a lot of arm strength, playmaking ability. He's somebody to keep your eye on as the college football season continues. Drew Aller from Penn State, I thought looked really sharp and clean in his first game of the college football season here. Over 84% completion percentage. So, his kind of deal is, can he be more consistent? Can he, increase that completion percentage? Can he find the right reads within his progressions? This week wasn't a fantastic opponent he played against, but he was absolutely terrific. He was another guy that got pulled early because of his performance, over 217 yards. He had a touchdown as well, out of structure, rolling out to his left, flipping those hips, throwing an absolute dot in the corner of the end zone. So Drew Aller looked the part of an NFL starting quarterback prospect here in week one, and I just love his continual improvement. And going back to high school, man, like he's got videos of him showing off his progression in terms of his throwing mechanics while he was in high school heading into college, and it really was a marvel to watch. He was somebody that really grew during COVID, and now during his college career, the area that he's really grown in is the mental processing side of things. Last year, he cut out the turnovers. This year, it appears like, at least on the film, it obviously wasn't the greatest opponent, but he was getting the ball to his receivers on time. He was making plays out of structure when he needed to. He just looked polished out there in week one. We'll see if that continues against tougher opponents down the road, but if he plays like he did here in week one, I have a feeling he's going to be a top 5 pick in the National Football League draft next year in Pittsburgh. Then you get to Garrett Nussmeier from LSU, and it wasn't a perfect game for the Nuss Bus, going up against Clemson, kind of a tougher team, week one, on the road, tough environment, but despite that, man, 73.7% completion percentage for 230 yards passing and a touchdown. That touchdown pass, man, was an absolute dot down the sideline on a deep pass. So I thought Nussmeier showed some really good things. He showed some nice passes out of structure as well, showed some nice pocket presence, and he's just an absolute warrior, man. That's the thing that I love about Garrett Nussmeier, is that, I love his ability to mentally process and diagnose defenses. He throws with some of the best anticipation you're going to see from any college quarterback. That is really, really important, in my opinion, in terms of translating your game to the National Football League level. And Nussmeier also, played his best football when he needed to play it in the second half of that football game, when it was close, when it was tight. And of course, he played better than his counterpart. That'll be coming up later in today's show. Then we'll get to Lenore Sellers here from South Carolina, played on Monday. And, he didn't have a perfect performance either, guys, but just the strength as a rusher that he showed off, his ability to avoid avoid pressure, break tackles, and break sacks, potential sacks in the pocket, and then showing the balance along the sideline, the tightrope it a couple of times. Then he had a couple deep shots. I mean, this guy just has the physical skill set that you want, all right, and that Mike Tomlin wants, frankly. I mean, he's over 240 pounds, so similar size to like an Anthony Richardson, only, he's a little bit more developed, at least at this stage in his career, than Anthony Richardson was back at Florida. He actually can go through reads. He actually does have good pocket presence. Now, he's not all the way there yet, I would say. Some of the progressions and stuff like that were a little bit slow. He was a little bit late on a couple of throws. Over 60% completion percentage, though. Had two total touchdowns on the day versus Virginia Tech, and of course left the stadium with the dub over VT. So overall, good performance from LaNorris Sellers, and it certainly wasn't a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but he is an effing unit, guys. And honestly, as Steelers fans, if you want LaNorris Sellers, you want him to have a shaky season this year, because you want him to be available somewhere in the teens, somewhere where the Steelers can potentially go up and get him and trade up for him, because if he has a hell of a season, he has like a Heisman-level campaign this year, I hate to break it to you, Steelers fans, you're not getting LaNorris Sellers. So let me know down there in the comments section, which college quarterback impressed you the most over the weekend? I just gave you my list of 8 guys that impressed me the most, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And now let's get into our duds list here, starting with the guy that definitely had the most hype heading into the season, Arch Manning from Texas. Now, I'm not going to panic too much surrounding Arch Manning, because he did have a tough situation. It's his first game as a starter on the road to go into the shoe against that defense, against probably the best team in the country heading into the year. It's a tough environment, but hey, he missed some throws that, Texas is expecting him to make, especially down the stretch there. Only 56% completion percentage, less than 200 yards passing. Did have a touchdown. That was a really nice pass down the sideline in the second half, kept them in the ball game. Had another really nice throw down the sideline against cover 2 later in that football game. Arch Manning showed some good things, guys, which is why I'm not about to panic. The talent is clearly there, but his mechanics certainly got away from him more than once on the film. The mental processing and stuff like that certainly needs to get a little bit faster. And, I do expect as he gets more reps and as the season goes on, he's going to continue to look better and better and better. He does have some really nice physical tools and traits, though. So I think that by the end of the season, if Texas plays Ohio State again, he's going to be better equipped to handle that kind of pressure in that defense than he was here in week 1. But then Cade Klubnik, who's currently ranked as the number 1 quarterback on the consensus big board, I thought underwhelmed in his season premiere here, his season opener versus the LSU Tigers defense. Only 50% completion percentage. I mean, he had a tough time completing passes. I thought that he was looking pretty slow getting through his progressions and mentally processing the defense as well. He did put up 230 yards passing, but he didn't have a single touchdown. He threw a very crucial pick. So I think Klubnik is going to have to show more as the season goes on, as he continues to play tougher competition. But here's the thing about Klubnik, guys. He's in the ACC. He's not going to play teams like LSU until pretty much like the college football playoff, maybe the ACC championship, maybe a team like Florida State plays pretty darn well on defense this year, and that's a tougher opponent for him this year. But like LSU was really the test that Klubnik needed to show up in, and he kind of failed that test here in week 1. So I'm hoping Klubnik shows some better stuff down the road, but definitely not the best start for the Clemson Tiger QB. Then Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. Now, I think a lot of people were excited to see this kid play because, coming over from Cal, had a really good season last year. And he's got, first-round expectations heading into the year, and he couldn't even complete 60% of his passes versus Old Dominion at home. I mean, he didn't have 200 yards passing. Now, to be fair, there was a dropped bomb of a touchdown pass that's not reflected in the stat sheet here. It definitely would have been a touchdown where he finished the day with 0 touchdowns on the day. But overall, just a little bit of a disappointing outing for Fernando Mendoza, in my opinion, guys. He just needs to tighten it up a little bit. He made some nice throws, but he also missed some throws accuracy-wise. I thought he was a little bit frazzled at times in terms of the mental processing, not getting through his reads the way that you want a potential first-round quarterback to do. But he's got a rocket arm. He's got some good pocket presence. He showed some legitimately good stuff at Cal last year, so hopefully he can just settle down in the weeks to come and show us that he's worth a first-round pick come next spring. And then I thought Sam Leavitt, even though Leavitt from Arizona State showed a really good stat line, I thought some of the decisions he made, some of the mental processing mistakes that he made, bailing from clean pockets, it was just a sloppy film. And even though the stat line looks fine, 64.1% completion percentage, over 250 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, he made some really bad decisions, and he threw 1 interception. He could have thrown multiple interceptions in that game, guys, in my opinion. And he's got the physical tools. He's got some nice rushing ability. He's got some really nice arm talent. He certainly has round 1 potential. But without Cam Scatterbill out there, he certainly felt a little bit of that pressure to carry the offense, and they won big time in that football game, but he also put the ball in danger a little bit more than I would have liked. So I do think he's got some processing issues that he's got to get over as the season goes on. But again, like Arch Manning, that's going to come with more and more reps as he's a bigger part of this Arizona State offense this year. So even though it wasn't the best week 1 performance from Sam Leavitt, I'm excited to see what he's going to do and how much he's going to grow as the season goes on. So one more time for me, down there in the comments section, which college quarterback had the most disappointing performance this weekend? I'm guessing I'm going to see a lot of Arch Mannings down there in the comment section, but that's okay if you're a Longhorns fan.